Kish. There we go. And this is your science lesson video. Today, mostly you're going to listen to me read a couple of books, okay? The first one is called Earth's Landforms and Bodies of Water. We read the landform part already. I read that to you from Epic. Today, we're going to read about bodies of water, okay? So we'll do that first, and then I'll show you the next one. If you read this on Epic, it has the same title, but the cover looks a little different, but it's the same book. Okay, in the table of contents, we already read the parts that were about land when we were learning about land. Now we want to read the parts about water. So I'm looking, land near water is the first part we didn't read, and it's on page 12. So I'm going to go to page 12. Look what it says at the top, land near water. This is called a heading. It's telling what this part of the book is all about. I also have picture captions. They are sentences that tell more about the picture or the photograph, okay? Land near water. The place where land meets water is called the coast or shore. A coast can drop down to the water over a cliff. It can also be flat and sandy with a beach. Coastlines surround islands. An island is an area of land with water all around it. Sometimes a coastline has a long, narrow strip of land that juts into the water. This is a peninsula. Michigan is actually made of two peninsulas. If you look at your Michigan map or Google Earth, you can find Michigan, and you can see two pieces of land that are mostly surrounded by water, right? Michigan is not so narrow like many peninsulas are. It's a big peninsula, but it's mostly surrounded by water. The lower peninsula, where we live, which is shaped like a mitten, and then the upper peninsula. This says a bay is water that has land almost all around it. It's kind of the opposite of a peninsula. So here's the bay, and it only has this one part that connects it to the other water. Where rivers meet the sea. When a river meets a lake or ocean, it can form a delta. A delta is often a triangle-shaped area. It is made up of built-up layers of soil. This soil is carried by the river and dropped at the mouth of the river. Some deltas are so big that people can live on them. A delta is a place where a river splits into many channels. Those channels flow into a lake or an ocean. If you looked at Google Earth with me and you looked at the Nile River, at the mouth there's a big delta, a big green area where the river is splitting up before it goes into the Mediterranean Sea. Where is water found on Earth? Water covers 3/4 of the Earth's surface. So if we took all of the surface of the Earth and split it into 4/4, 3 of them would be water and 1 would be land. Most of the water is in Earth's 5 oceans. An ocean is a large, deep body of salt water. The rest of the water on Earth is fresh water. Fresh water does not have salt in it. Lakes, streams, rivers, and ponds have fresh water. Right here it says there is also fresh water underground. People use pumps to bring the water up for drinking. Some of you might have a well or a pump, and that might be how you get your water at your house too. A stream is a small body of water, of moving water. Many streams flow into rivers. A river is long and narrow. It flows into a lake or ocean. A lake is a large body of fresh water. A lake is surrounded by land on all sides. A pond is a small body of still water. Ponds can form naturally or be made by people. This one was made by people, but you can find them in nature. Frozen solid. Not all of Earth's water is liquid. Some of it is in solid form. Much of Earth's fresh water is frozen as ice in glaciers. Glaciers are thick layers of moving ice. Glaciers form when snow and hail begin to pile up high in the mountains. The weight causes the snow to change to ice. The ice then starts to slowly slide down the mountain. The Perito Moreno Glacier in Argentina is growing larger every year. There are glaciers on every continent on Earth. Frozen rivers. Glaciers push and drag rocks and soil down the mountain with them. Piles of soil and rock are left along the edges of the glacier. Glaciers carve out valleys as they move. The melted water from the glacier fills these landforms, creating rivers and lakes. And that's actually how our Great Lakes were made was from glaciers that as they were moving, they carved out low areas. That low area got filled with water and it made our Great Lakes. Okay, we've been reviewing our kinds of bodies of water. The next book I'm going to read to you talks more about them. It's called Follow the Water from Brook to Ocean. Okay, so we're going to listen to another story. If you need a finger wiggle break, quick pause. This is a good time to do it. Come back when you're ready to listen to the next story. After the next big rainstorm, put your boots on and go outside. Look at the water dripping from your roof. Watch it gush out of the drain pipes. You can see water flowing down your street too. Water is always flowing. It trickles in the brook near your house. Sometimes you might see water rushing along in a stream or in a big river. Water always flows downhill. It flows from high places to low places, just the way you and your skateboard might move down a hill. Sometimes water collects in a low spot in the land, a puddle, a pond, or a lake. The water's downhill journey may end there. Most of the time, though, the water will find a way to keep flowing downhill. Because water flows downhill, it will keep flowing until it can't go any lower. The lowest parts of the earth are the oceans. Water will keep flowing until it reaches an ocean. Where does the water start? Where does the water in a brook or a stream or a river come from? The water comes from rain, and it comes from melting snow. The water from rain and melting snow runs over the ground. Some of it soaks into the ground, and some water is soaked up by trees and other plants. But a lot of the water keeps traveling over the ground, flowing downhill. The water runs along, flowing over the ground. Trickles of water flow together to form a brook. A brook isn't very deep or wide. You can usually easily step across the brook to get to the other side. The brook flows over small stones covered with algae. Algae are tiny plants. They can be green, red, or brown. Green algae makes the water look green. Plop! A frog jumps into the brook. A salamander wiggles through leafy water. Plants. Slap! A trout's tail hits the water. Lots of creatures live in the moving water. The brook flows into a stream. Water from many brooks feeds the stream. Some streams are fed by water from springs. Water that's soaked into the ground far uphill comes to the surface again. Water that's soaked into the ground far uphill flows across rocks underground. When the water comes to the surface again, it bubbles up as a spring. That's pretty interesting. A stream can be big enough for a canoe. The water can move fast in a mountain stream. The stream bubbles and roars, racing downhill. And then we talked about before, if it's really dry, a stream or the brooks might even dry up. There might not be any water. But then when snow is melting or there's a lot of rain, they could fill in again. Clunk, thunk. You can hear rocks tumbling underwater. The fast-moving water is powerful. It carries along ground-up rocks and soil. Big, heavy rocks get swept along, too. Moving water carves the land. Water and tumbling rock grind the land away. You can see how the river is lower than the land around it right there. The moving water carves deeper and deeper. Rains fall and wash more rock and soil into the streams. Over many thousands of years, whole mountains can be worn away. This wearing away of the land is called erosion. When you watch the experiment with the sand, right, and when I had the water that came on it, you saw what could happen. That happened very quickly. In real life, it takes thousands of years for water to wear away a mountain that much. Sploosh! An otter slides down the steep bank of the stream. The stream flows into a river. Many brooks and streams can flow into a river. A river is deep and wide. Big boats can use a river. People can swim in it. A river flows fast when it runs down steep slopes. Fast-flowing rivers can carve deep canyons in the land. In some places, the Grand Canyon of the Colorado River is 18 miles wide, so 18 miles across, and 1 mile deep. The river looks like a thin ribbon at the bottom of the canyon. If you are looking for a cool place to look at Google Earth, the Grand Canyon is a pretty cool one to look at. When a river comes to a rocky cliff, the water falls over the edge. It's a waterfall. Some waterfalls drop hundreds of feet. The water sprays up when it hits the ground below. You can smell the river in the air. A river moves more slowly when it crosses flatter land. When a river moves slowly, it doesn't carve as deeply. It loops back and forth across the land as it finds the easiest way downhill. These bends in a river are called meanders. Can you say meanders? That's where it goes back and forth, looking for the easiest way to go downhill. Some rivers look muddy because of all the soil that has been washed into them. Water from rain and melting snow carries soil from the surrounding land into the river. Valleys are formed over many thousands of years as more and more soil is washed down into the river. There is so much soil in the Missouri River that it is called the Big Muddy. Sometimes a river overflows its banks and it floods. Heavy rains may cause a river to flood. A flood can destroy people's homes and wash away a lot of soil. Thankfully, we don't really live in a place that has floods like that very much, right? We get rain, but we don't usually get so much rain. We have a river, but the times when it floods, usually, thankfully, it floods in areas where people don't live. All right, let's see here. We're going to skip that page and go to the next one. This says, some people think that rivers and streams are good places to put garbage and other waste. They're not. Polluted water can kill fish, plants, and animals, and it's dangerous to people too. When the polluted water reaches the ocean, it can also kill the fish and plants that live there. Remember that water is flowing downhill, right? So if you put trash in one part of the river, it will move to another part. The river meets the ocean at the river's mouth. The water is still flowing downhill, although it moves very slowly now. It moves so slowly that it cannot carry its load of soil and rock anymore. Remember all those little pieces that it was carrying with it. It drops the soil and rock at the mouth of the river. This can form a delta, which we saw in the other book. Water may travel overland for thousands of miles before it finally reaches the ocean. The oceans hold most of the Earth's water and cover almost 3/4 of the whole Earth. Many kinds of fish and animals and plants live in the ocean. Tiny creatures called plankton live in the ocean. They are too small to see without a microscope. Gigantic whales live there too. The ocean is so big and so deep that it has hardly been explored. The water has reached the end of its downhill trip. Water flowed from a brook to a stream to a river. It may have flowed over waterfalls, through canyons. It was a long journey to the ocean. The next time you see water in a brook, a stream, or a river, you will know where it is going. All right. So second graders, we've learned so much about different kinds of water. Hopefully in these books, you learned something or saw something you already knew, and hopefully you learned something new too.